Welcome, Angela. Last time we were talking about some of the fairly depressing statistics in our Big Dementia Conversation. This time I think we've got a much more positive stance. Now, it's been an uplift from 25% of people having an understanding of dementia now to 44%.
Crikey, that's almost double, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now that is seriously good news, I think. That people, as you say, they've now got to the point where they have an understanding of what dementia is. So the message is getting across that this is a disease of the brain.
I think there's a balance there, isn't there?
It is.
In terms of people actually understanding the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease or other types of dementia and getting old.
Exactly.
The symptoms of just getting older, because we are all getting older, and we do some funny things. And what we've seen is that 71% of people from this survey actually mix up the symptoms of dementia and old age. So perhaps delay that process of getting a diagnosis because the person is just getting older. You know, both you and I have had a mother with Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, and we've seen those symptoms but not always recognised them.
Yes. I remember that my mother started to have terrible arguments with me. And because I didn't realise at the time, because it was very early in her dementia journey, that she had dementia, I would stand and argue back. Of course I would. You know, my mum would say something that was totally wrong. And I would say, no, Mummy, it's not that at all. No, you didn't do that. And I suddenly realised when things started to get even worse, there was something wrong here. And that was when it was important for me to get my mum diagnosed. And I don't think either of us would ever underestimate the importance of early diagnosis.
It's the certainty that we're all going to age and we're all going to change, and we're all guilty of walking in that room and thinking, what have I come in here for? And then, but obviously the difference with somebody living with dementia is that they really, really are not going to recall why they've come in that room. You know, it's quite different than those normal sort of agings that we get. We often talk about memory. People often associate dementia with memory, but it can be more subtle than that. It's not that I'm just forgetting things, it's that I can't do that anymore, or I find that difficult now, so I'm going to stop doing it. Because there's an embarrassment factor to it as well.
Yes, that was a classic for Mum, yes.
Yeah. And,
so going out and actually socialising, she stopped going out and socialising because obviously she couldn't follow the conversation maybe, or she'd forgot who these people were. So her way of dealing with it is, well, I'm not going to do that anymore.
We do quite often see that the person socially isolates themselves. Yes. Because they can't cope with or can't answer the questions that people are asking when they're in a social environment.
Every person's journey is completely different to everybody else's. And it's so hard to sort of say, well, what is age? Until you can get inside that person's head, because you don't really know what they're thinking and how they're thinking. You just see the outcome of it, the effect of it. With Mum, we could see things were changing. But again, we were sort of saying, well, is this just age? And we were lucky that we were both around a lot. We were always there at Mum and Dad's, weren't we? So we could, and we were probably doing more and more without realising, because we were doing the shopping and we did this and we were cleaning, and you couldn't help Mum. If you helped Mum, she would go berserk.
Because that's the other thing, Mum has always been very independent.
Yeah.
Listening to you, it's fascinating to hear some of the stories that are very similar to my own experience with my family. But I would think also, Carl, that what we're hearing is that it all started a little bit earlier, but largely was put down to old age. Yeah. And Dad was masking, and sometimes it's Mum that's masking the other person's frailty. And it's not until that person is unable to help their partner that you suddenly get this dawning, they can't do it anymore.